Hello, hello, check, check. A very pleasant morning to everyone present here. I am Sanjana J, studying in the second year of Department of Studies of English. I cordially invite each one of you present here. I would kindly make a request for all of you to please switch off your phones or put it on silent. We do not want any disturbance when the speaker is speaking. Thank you. First, I would like to welcome the dignitaries on the stage. Professor N.S. Harinarayana, Chairperson of Department of Studies in Library and Information Science. Professor Swapna M.S., Chairperson of Department of Studies in Mass Communication and Journalism. Professor Musafir H. Azadi, Department of Studies in Political Science, and Professor H.S. Nagendra Swamy, Chairperson of Department of Studies in Computer Science. On behalf of Department of Studies of Computer Science, Department of Studies of English, Department of Studies of Mass Communication and Journalism, and Department of Studies of Library and Information Science, I take this immense pleasure in welcoming each one of you to this auspicious program. I cordially invite everybody to be an active participant here in today's program. We are going to have a special lecture on ChatGPT and academic writing. As a student of second year, who will be graduating in a couple of weeks, I know that I've been using LinkedIn more than Instagram. And even if I open Instagram, the reels that I come across are only suggesting me to make resumes and CVs using ChatGPT. So I can tell ChatGPT has been an integral part of my learning and research at this time. So I'm looking forward to learning from you, ma'am, and I'm sure the audience are equally excited as I am. Okay, so before we start the program, as our India is known for its rich culture and tradition, we always begin programs by welcoming the God's blessings upon us. So I call upon my dear friend Purnima S. Bharadwaj, Department of Studies of English, to sing a song, Sharade Karunanidhe, in front of us to evoke God's blessings. Purnima?
शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनान् शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनान् शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनान् चारणादिम गीतवैभव पूरितखिल दीप्तते शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनान् भर्मभूषण भूषिते वररत्नमौलि विराजिते भर्मभूषण भूषिते वररत्नमौलि विराजिते शर्मदायिनि कर्ममोचनि निर्मलं कुरु मानसम् शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनान् शारदे करुणानिधे हस्तसन्धृतपुस्तकक्षपटि सुधाघटमुद्रिके हस्तसन्धृतपुस्तकक्षपटि सुधाघटमुद्रिके कस्तवास्ति वर्णने चतुरानरकचरोत्तवा शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जनाचरणादिम गीतवैभवपूरितखिल दीप्तते शारदे करुणानिधे सकलानवाम्ब सदा जना. Thank you.
Thank you, Purnima. Now, I would like to call upon the stage Professor N.S. Harinarayana, Chairman of Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, to welcome the gathering.
Good morning, all of you. Distinguished academician and function, Professor Muzaffar Asadi, my most revered teacher, Professor Shalini Ars, eminent scholar, Professor Nagendra Swami HS, one of the most dynamic academicians of the campus, Professor Sapna MS, distinguished scholars from the other departments, esteemed educators, students, researchers, and curious minds gathered here today. Good morning to you all. We stand here today at the threshold of a new era in academic writing, an era defined by collaboration, innovation, and the symbiotic relationship between technology and human intellect. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this special lecture on ChatGPT and academic writing, a topic that has ignited conversations and raised questions in lecture halls and research corners alike. Let us dive even deeper into the topic a little later. This special lecture is a result of minds from different fields: library and information science, journalism and mass communication, English and computer science coming together. In our fast-paced and interconnected world, the boundaries between academic disciplines are becoming increasingly porous. Today, we find ourselves at the intersection of fields that were once seen as separate entities, from arts to languages and from sciences to interdisciplinary subject. This event stands as a testament to the power of such collaborations as we witness the convergence of four distinct departments, as I told you earlier: journalism and mass communication, English, computer science, and library and information science. We picked the larger Vignan Bhavan auditorium, hoping many would come. I'm glad not just the four subjects, but other students too have joined. The big crowd is because of the hot topic and the popular speaker. The topic ChatGPT and academic writing stirs debate. It brings together old academic ways and new AI technology. The debate is about how ChatGPT affects real and creative academic writing. ChatGPT can help write well, but it could reduce thinking and creativity. Relying on it might mix human and machine work. This might question the value of education and real thinking. Ethics also matter. Using ChatGPT for speed might lead to copying or unethical use. This debate makes us to think about the change in education and how to use technology while being fair. In this context, I'm a bit perplexed. Some think ChatGPT is great. It speeds up research and writing. Others worry. They say it might copy too much and lessen our unique thinking. I think we are not here to decide who is right. We are here to talk. Our universities are perfect places for these talks. Different departments, different ideas. That's the power. Remember, we are not chasing final answers today. We are talking to understand, to make a path. ChatGPT in this fast digital age reflects how we think. It's a chance to see ourselves. In a world where words and ideas fly fast, we are shaping how to write academically. We are at a crossroads where old and new meet, where tradition and new ways shake hands. Thank you for being here in this journey. Let us explore ChatGPT and academic writing together. We start with open hearts, curious minds, and hope a smarter, brighter, and academic world. This journey is ours. The destination, a world filled with more wisdom. Now it is the time for me to welcome the guests. I will keep it brief. You are here to listen to Professor Shalini Aras, my teacher. I will not be standing between you and her for a long, but I must invite our guest even briefly. She recently spoke on artificial intelligence at Vijayanagar. I felt our students need to know about the new technology soon. I spoke to journalism, English, and computer science heads to join forces. They agreed quickly and said, we need Professor Shalini R. Aras. More details about her from Professor Sapna later. I thank Professor Shalini for coming, and I welcome her on behalf of all the 4 departments and everyone here. Good evening. Let me introduce Professor Muzaffar Asadi from Political Science, a remarkable thinker on the campus. His academic background sets a standard for all teachers. Also, he leads English department. He graciously agreed not only to co-host, but also to chair our event. I'm eager for his thoughts in his upcoming presidential speech of this event. A warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of every one of us here. Professor H.S. Nanjandaswamy leads the esteemed computer science department. He's an expert in pattern recognition, neurocomputing, and machine intelligence. Professor Nagendra Swamy is both a dedicated researcher and a teacher. I share a strong connection with him, admiring his patience and problem-solving skills. He's always backed academic initiatives. When I asked, he promptly provided content contributing to this event's success. Let us extend a warm welcome to him on everyone's behalf. I'm happy to introduce Professor Sapna MS, one of our most active faculty members. Dr. Sapna MS, a professor and chairperson of the department at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. The university specializes in electronic media reporting, corporate communication, environmental journalism, and community and social media studies. She is like the campus news hub, always sharing information on social media like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. She collects and shares news with us, the teachers. She is very accomplished researcher and her students admire her. When I asked her for help, she agreed instantly. She played a key role in setting up this event. Please join me in welcoming her on behalf of everyone here. At first, I was a bit unsure about this gathering. Now I am thrilled by a strong student and researcher turnout. I congratulate every student here for joining. I hope the speaker can clear my any doubts about ChatGPT. A warm welcome to all of you. I warmly welcome the teachers, media individuals, the public, and everyone gathered here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Swapna MS, Chairperson of Department of Studies in Mass Communication and Journalism, to introduce the special guest to the gathering.
A warm good morning, one and all present here, dignitaries on the dais. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to all the speaker of the day, Professor Shalini R. Aras, an established academic leader, an educationist, and an entrepreneur. Shalini Aras has got a very long stint as a professor and also as an entrepreneur at the University of Mysore, not only in India, but also abroad. Just to give you an insight of how Shalini Aras ma'am has grown over the professional period, I've got 9 pages of the thing which ma'am has provided us, but I'll be just taking out the most important contribution what she has done for the academic field, not only in her subject, but also otherwise also. As I told, ma'am has been an alumni of the University of Mysore, completing her master's in library science in the year 1975 and acquiring a PhD from the same department in the year 1993. Speaking about her academic experience, she has been a professor with Myra School of Business from 2013 to 2019, professor with the International School of Information Management, ISIM, that is at the University of Mysore, which was established in the year 2007 till 2015. Professor at the Department of Library and Information Science, and she has also been a Fulbright Scholar and a visiting professor at the Department of Computer Science, Virginia Tech in US from 2000 to 2001. And also being a visiting professor at Documentation Research and Training Center at the Indian Statistical Institute, Bangalore in the year 1998 and 1999. Ma'am has got a specialization since her period of her career. She has been teaching many of the subjects, the most important one being classification and indexing, information, communication, digital libraries, information sources and services, concepts, network analysis, and digital marketing. Apart from academics, she has also been heading a full funded research projects, which the prominent being the UK's Economic and Research Council and also ICSSR partnership in the PhD programs. She has also been a part of Internet Safari and also a network of influence and NSA study, which was being funded by the Emerald Publishing. Ma'am has also been a part of the consultancy projects and on various assignments, some of them being Institute of Social and Economic Change, Library Automation Project. She has coordinated the University Grant Commission Special Assistance Program, which is SAP, which is a very important project for any department at the campus, at the Department of Library Science in the year 2007. And also she was a part of the UNESCO assignment of study and to prepare the directory for open access education and training opportunities to prepare the model curriculum. And she has also been a consultant at the international and national organization at various levels. She has attended many international conferences and also has established the Myra School of Business business at Mysore, which is also she is the founder and the chairperson. And she has been a part of many international workshops, the most important being the Microsoft Research sponsored program workshop in the year 2010, reading brainstorming workshop on OCR of the Indian languages, UNESCO interactive ebook workshop, which was there in Bangalore in the year 2004. Apart from this, she has been awarded and honored by many of the distinguished organizations, the most important being the Ennoble Research Fund Award by Indiana LIS, that is the Library Science and Information Science, Best Women Information Scientist by Satkal in the year 2007, and also the first annual Adobe Leadership Award from India. She has been a member of many important committees. She has written good number of books, co-edited, and also been edited number of the books, which has been done by, or has been published by Springer, and also she has got around 200 English papers in international conferences, majorly being published by Springer and others. So it's very nice to have you, ma'am, here. As I told, the list goes on and on. It is time for us to listen to her, and it is a pleasure to have you here. And hopefully, the students will have a very good food for thought related to ChatGPT and academic writing. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, all that we've been waiting for, we welcome ma'am to kindly come to the stage and educate the audience.
Slide change.
It was some slide change.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My own department, that is Department of Library Information Science, and especially Hari. Well, by this time, at least my own students and friends know that I'm a very informal person. I don't always attach this professor, doctor, etc. And especially, not only to my students, but to others also. And especially one is a student, such as Dr. Hari Narayana. So I'm going to address him as Hari. So when he asked me about, I think maybe 2 weeks back or something like that, to give a talk, as he mentioned, after listening to me about giving a talk on AI, I readily accepted, and he also told me that about the possibility of this collaboration, etc., between different departments. So at this juncture, before I get into the topic, I would like to actually thank all the other departments too, and the people heading these departments. That is the Department of English, Department of Journalism and Communication, and of course, the Department of Computer Science. And the heads of these departments, Sapna, Dr. Sapna, Dr. Nagendra Swami, and of course, the president of today's event, Professor Asadi. Thank you for being here. I'm not too sure how interesting this talk is going to be, because when you are addressing a very diverse audience coming from different departments, it's always a challenge, because you need to balance between how technical or how specific you can go to, or how generic or non-technical one can be. And after listening to our anchor, I don't remember the name of the student here, who has been the MC here, And she said every day she gets this ChatGPT messages about how to polish or even create her resume, right? So that means ChatGPT is also a topic which everyone is familiar with. So given these challenges, let me try to do hopefully some justice and keep it interesting. And now talking about the collaboration between different departments, Hari mentioned that we are happy. Of course, I am very happy that there is this collaboration happening. But I would also like to start off saying that this collaboration between these subjects is a very natural one. Let me begin with the collaboration between, say, for example, library and information science and computer science. Well, one of my favorite anecdotes to begin any talk relating to technology or computer science and information technology aspect in my own field of library information science is this. In the, as you know, computers have been there, but it's only since the 1930s that they kind of slowly entered different domains. And IBM was one of the leading, it continues to be a leading corporate house, but it was then also, even in the 1930s, important leading computer company. So IBM in the 1930s had built those days, big computers. I mean, I use the word those days because they were big, but no comparison even to our mobile's computing power. 6. And that was the number that was considered to be a huge number those days for building these big systems by IBM. And as you know, in the 1930s, one other major event that happened, since we have a political science professor here, we all know that how society, politics, etc., impacts technology and our lives. So the World War II was starting to happen, and naturally and of course there was recession. These things impacted the business of IBM machines. So IBM chairperson or the president of IBM, he could not sell even one single IBM machine of the 1930s. So it was almost kind of expected that IBM would go into bankruptcy, and he was worried. So at that time, his wife says that there is an evening party here today, please come. So he joins her reluctantly to attend the dinner party, and he was placed next to an old woman. As it is, he was not in a good mood. So imagine a person sitting next to an old woman. He thought that, it's going to be a boring night or a boring dinner party today. And he started talking to her. And the lady who was sitting next to this IBM president was the librarian of New York Public Library System in the 1930s. And when she started asking, what are you doing, etc., he said, I am this company called IBM. We have built 6 big machines which can do this data processing activity. Those were the days when they were called as data processing equipment. What can it do? She asked. And she said, well, it can do all this processing. And he says, I'm unable to sell. So he said, okay, I will buy. I think she mentioned 3. Don't worry, I need such machines to manage the activities of my public library system. New York Public Library System is one of the largest public library systems in the world. And I need such machines to manage that. And naturally, IBM was happy. Everything changed. So that is the connection. Why I'm bringing this story. It's a real story. I'm not making it up. Like ChatGPT, ChatGPT, one of the drawbacks of ChatGPT is, which I will come to later, is it can make things up. Okay. I'm not making it up. I can give you references later. So that is the connection between computers and libraries. In fact, whether you can think of any such important punch cards, for example, punch cards, which actually began the computing revolution, were used as, one of the triggers for that is the use of you might be familiar with the catalog cards in the libraries. Okay, so Surgeon General of the American, libraries, he was, sorry, not American Library, Surgeon General Hospital. So he was also a librarian. And then he was talking to another computer science who was, the punch card machine, Hollerith. So Hollerith said, I don't know, how do I manage this, management of this punch card? So he said, why don't you think of this card? The reason I'm mentioning these two incidents is that is the collaboration. That is why different fields have to come together. So ChatGPT being this is the agenda. First, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the buzz, why there is so much buzz and what is the buzz that we are talking about. Am I audible? ಇದು ಆನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ಯಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಂತ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. ಆನ್ ಆಗಿದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿದೆ, ನಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. Okay. So a little bit about, because it's a generic audience. So there is this buzz going around as far as the ChatGPT. Not audible? That's what I thought. So native intelligence is good enough. ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ. So the buzz is about the power and pitfalls of AI in general. And I'm also going to be talking about what is AI a little bit about, because as I said, it's a diverse audience. And even otherwise, I'm going to be telling that also. In any academic writing or talking, we need to start with the basics. We need to define what we mean by that and what exactly it is. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about academic process, because of the students community here, I think it's, and also for us as well, we need to actually reiterate and to some extent reinforce what actually academic writing is every now and then. So I'm going to be talking about that too a little bit. And then ChatGPT and academic writing, which is the main topic here. So as I said earlier, and as everybody has been saying, ChatGPT or AI is the talk of the town, right? Wherever you go. In fact, correct. So it is being the talk of the town. The reason being, in fact, someone was mentioning about, I think it was Harinarayana who was mentioning that ChatGPT has made academic work faster and easier. I would say, talking about preparing for this talk, even though I have been talking about it and using ChatGPT, has been a challenging one and has been a slow one. You know why? Because every day you open something and then you will come up with some article, some alert about somebody talking about AI or ChatGPT. That means you feel like reading that, and then in the process, what happened is I read so much in the last 1 week, I could not include or even remember half of it. So that is how I would say, in a way, like, any information, the plenty is not necessarily always. The problem of plenty is also made. In a way, ChatGPT AI also causes the problem of plenty, because, after end of the day, human beings, our brain can only absorb, that is biologically limited, unlike the AI. We are biologically limited by the amount of
memory that we have, amount of processing power we have, etc. So therefore, it's a challenge for us to go with ChatGPT or AI, but it is also, I would say, the strength of the human intelligence or whatever we call it as natural intelligence, as against the artificial intelligence. Even though ChatGPT or AI has been the top of the town for the last 6 or so, 7 months, basically since ChatGPT was announced in November 2022, it's been the top. But it doesn't mean, as you know, any technology for that matter, as I mentioned about computing or anything, it's been with us for many decades. So similarly, AI also has been with us for several decades, except that, in any technology for that matter, it needs a tipping point when it subsumes, in fact, everyone's attention. It becomes top of the top. So we have reached that tipping point for a variety of reasons, and one of the primary reasons is the ChatGPT. It's not just a technology of ChatGPT, but it is also because ChatGPT, at least 3.5, is available. It's open and available to everyone to make it. And the other reason why it has become top of the town, not just because of its technological capabilities, its power, etc., but it is also because of the potential as well as the pitfalls. Many people, great scientists, technologists, as well as humanists, social scientists, etc., are greatly worried about the impact of AI in general and ChatGPT in particular. In fact, everyone has been talking about the dangers that lurk behind the advent of AI and advent of ChatGPT. So we need to consider both the power as well as the dangers that lurk behind ChatGPT or AI in general. So I'm going to be mentioning a little bit about the dangers as well in the very beginning. As I mentioned earlier, let us be clear about what are we talking about when we say artificial intelligence, right? Because everybody knows what is artificial intelligence. However, it is important for us to actually kind of start with the basics of what is artificial intelligence. So, according to one definition, artificial intelligence is the simulation. Remember, the key word here is the simulation of human intelligence processes, not human intelligence. Remember, human intelligence processes by machines, especially computers. So, what AI is trying to do is to simulate or mimic that how the human intelligence works. And in order to reach this stage, as I mentioned earlier about the different disciplines coming together, variety of disciplines, not just computer science, not just technology, but disciplines such as linguistics, such as neuroscience, they have come together because you need to study how the human brain works in order to be able to simulate the human brain, right? So similarly, language is one of the important abilities of human beings, human intelligence, human communication. Thereby, people have been studying linguistics to be able to develop AI which can mimic the human intelligence, especially through natural language processing, etc. So some people, it's the ability of the machine to perform, again, the cognitive functions we usually associate with human beings. So in one sense, computers were the first technologies that could, to some extent at least, augment the cognitive functions of humans. Until then, all technologies, technologies always extend our capabilities. Human capabilities are extended, right? From, for example, the wheel to all the technologies, they're extending human capabilities, right? Instead of walking, we could have a bullock cart or a car or whatever, and then move fast. Anything for that matter, or an aeroplane to move on from one place. So they extend our ability to, let us say, for example, commute from one place to another. So technologies have always been extending our capability. It is the computer technology. that actually, for the first time, extended human cognitive functions, whether it is sort of data processing, whether it is, for example, memory or what have you, all of those things are primarily being the main, I would say, the function of computers to extend the human cognitive function. And that's why the relationship between writing or, for example, whether you call it as academic writing or creative writing or scholarship in general, education, scholarship, etc., including information sciences, life sciences, etc., the collaboration is not only required, it's a natural one, as I said earlier. So for some, AI is a branch of computer science, a wide-range branch of computer science. So that is how people define AI as. As I mentioned, it's not just the computer scientists or scientists themselves who are actually talking about the dangers, but many people have been talking about the dangers lurking behind AI. I just mentioned only two of them. One, probably everybody has heard of Stephen Hawking. So Stephen Hawking, just before his death, he said this. It's important for us to pause and reflect on what he said. It could be the biggest event in the history of our civilization, or it could be the worst. So as someone might fear at the cusp, it could be one of the, the biggest. Why would it be a biggest one? One of the possible scenarios that I can imagine is, in my own fantasy world is, none of us need to do any work. That's interesting. Right? That's also nice. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to sit and study. We don't have to come and talk here and then say, ChatGPT, give a talk on ChatGPT and academic, right? And then I can also say, you can mimic my voice and my thoughts and put it the way in which I want, right? If it can do it, well, you won't invite me. That's also true. That's the negative side, but I don't have to come. But as long as it says Shalini others, I'm happy, right? So the sort of what I would call the brightest scenario is none of us need to work, but we can be pursuing whatever we want to do. It could be your music, it could be, the hobby is the hobby is tabla. So you can be doing tabla instead of teaching and researching life design, correct? So you can be pursuing or you can be doing painting, what even that activity ChatGPT can do. That's a different story. But the idea I'm talking about is I'm not just talking about those things that I'm realizing the possibility of AI. But imagine if we have robots, people, when I see, for example, everywhere we see roads are being actually built, when I see people working on this road construction near my house, there is a lot of dust. But when I see them, even for 10 minutes, I cannot go out and stand in the sun. But these four people are standing in the sun almost the whole day, working hard. So my heart said, why are these people still working so hard? If you could actually have a horse, no one needs to break their backs. No one needs to sweat in order to pay the bills. So imagine that scenario. That's the positive side. No one needs to break their bones or whatever. I think this has a connection to God, right? Maybe I still stand here. Let us give up on this. So the brightest scenario for me is that. Okay. The brightest scenario is where no one need to do that hard work. Roads get built, things get done, foods get, you don't have to do the cooking or you don't have to hire someone to do that. Everything comes like this. You might have read about recently, there have been many such AI companies as startups. Now, just 3-4 days back, there was the startup, I think an Israeli-based company coming up with ready-made meat. They're better.
Where is the, because otherwise there will be an echo. So that is one sense, the brightest scenario possible for AI. That is, no one need to do any hard. So that is what probably I would say Hawking means when he says that it could be the best point, turning point in our civilization where no one need to do any of this hard work particularly, okay? Or the scenario could be AI could just be ignoring the humanity, right? We are all ignored by AI. That is the danger, rather than the bright part of it where we need not work at all, but we can get the work done by a machine, intelligent machine, all kinds of work. As I said, physical as well as cognitive work, we can get it done. As the well-known author, he's one of my favorite authors, Harari says, the AI has hacked the operating system of human civilization. That is the essence, what makes this human civilization tick, right? That has been hacked by AI. That is what he says. Okay? As I said, he's my favorite author. The reason I'm mentioning this is, remember, it's one of the things about AI is its ability to carry out the cognitive functions that we, that is, when I say we, I mean human beings are uniquely capable of. This cognitive thinking or cognitive ability is unique to human beings. So thereby, we need to worry about this, right? So why I'm bringing this book about Sapiens by Harari is that he gives, it's an excellent book. If someone is interested in understanding human history, I would recommend reading it, or at least get a summary of this book through ChatGPT. You ask ChatGPT to give a summary of this book and then read that. So that way it will help you to understand that, right? Understand the beauty of this book or his. So the cognitive revolution, according to Harari, the cognitive revolution began somewhere around 70,000 years back, or 70,000 or 80, it doesn't matter whether it's 70, some people say 50, some people say 70, some people say 100. That is also a sort of a moving target as more and more research actually reveals more about our past as well. So he talks about cognitive revolution beginning during about 70,000 years ago. And then we came to the agricultural, then industrial, and then scientific revolution, which we say as the birth of the modern science, somewhere in the 16th century. So the question here is AI heralding this new cognitive revolution? That is why it is very important for us to, as everyone said, debate. Debate on AI, debate on ChatGPT is important because our question is today, is it going to herald the next cognitive revolution? As, for example, Harari asks, okay? And here I'm mentioning one of the well-known, I would say, computer scientists, Geo Witherhold, who also happens to be a good friend of mine who recently passed away somewhere in January. I interviewed him last year about AI. In fact, the talk of his interview was about different flavors of AI about a year and a half back, but then later he died. In fact, when I was doing these interviews, now currently I'm more involved in a monthly interview with one of the top experts or thinkers in the field who actually talk about different aspects. That's another area which you can, another, I would say, reflection of what is happening today. I'm not choosing people only from computer science, but it so happens that out of the 15 or so 18 interviews that I have done, more than half of them have been something connected to AI. That's the talk of the town. Anyway, one of the talks or interviews that I did with Geo Witherhold. Anyway, apart from the fact that he is well-known scientist, I would also like to, it's always good to drop names, or you can ask, of course, ChatGPT, who is Geo Witherhold. He is actually the grand supervisor of the inventors, or you can say developers of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. So their supervisor, that is PhD supervisor, was supervised by Geo Uddarhold at Stanford University. So he is such, I mean, he is the one who started working in this area, which are all connected, as I said, whether it is Google or AI or whatever, all these are evolutions in computer science, right? So I had the pleasure and privilege of interviewing him about a year and a half back. And I asked him this: do you think that AI will herald the next cognitive revolution? So he believes that it can do many things, but the holy grail of cognition or human cognition is abstraction. The capability that human beings have for abstraction is immense. What capabilities that computers have is their brute computing power, its ability to do. In fact, just the other day, as I said, every day you get some alert about ChatGPT or AI. It said that, if a child can take years to understand something, AI can understand it in seconds or nanoseconds. That is true. But what is also true is that in order for AI to come to that level, it needs millions or even billions of data sets, billions of images. Only when you feed billions of images of cat and also tag it as cat, it extracts the feature and then it's able to recognize. Of course, it can recognize any image as whether it's a cat or a dog or whatever, right? However, it's also important to know that a child will be able to distinguish between a cat and a dog. Maybe it will take a year, but it doesn't need billions. It only needs four or five instances. That is the difference, and that is the beautiful difference according to me. I have always been observing how children learn. And now as a grandmother, I have been observing how my granddaughter learns things since the last 3-4 years, right? The beauty is that within a few things, they are able to abstract and then say, this is it. You don't have to give billions of data sets and computing power to be able to do that abstraction. So in my view, despite all this, the kind of intelligence that human beings have, without all these capabilities, computers will not have in the next decade also. Okay. So according to Geo Uddarhold, human brain is slow. Interactions in the human brain take fractions of seconds, whereas, it takes a place. But still, we are better in reasoning and our ability to abstract things. So the abstraction is a holy thing. Now, coming back to again another book by by Harari. You will know Harari. After writing the book Sapiens, he has also written another book called Homo Deus. Okay? The reason here is, as you know, Homo sapiens was about our species, how humanity has evolved over the last 70,000 years. What has been the factors that have been responsible, and what is this cognitive revolution talks about. In this book, Harari sets out and examines the possibilities of the future of Homo sapiens, and then he says they will lose control. That is the danger. Human beings or Homo sapiens will lose control and algorithms will take over. That is the danger. As you have seen, a computer scientist was more optimistic about the abstraction ability of the human beings, whereas a cultural historian such as Harari, he says that we might probably lose control, right? And then he finally asked this question in this book: what will happen to society, politics, and daily life when non-conscious? The key here is about the non-conscious. That is, there is no consciousness in the computers or AI, right? They know better. They know more about us than we do. That's the important question that all of us have to worry, and especially computer scientists or technologists have to worry. And that's why you might have heard of this open letter, in fact, written by, crazy inventors such as Elon Musk, as well as, the open Sam Altman. All of them, many people have written to the government that we need to pause and then think about how we take or what direction we need to take this AI technology to or AI research into. Of course, you also hear about, four major companies such as Microsoft, Google, and including OpenAI, Facebook, etc., saying that we will also do this. There is always this worry about whether we should give this even this, power, the power of what direction the research has to take, for example, in AI, to the companies themselves, or it should be the government that should be in charge. Usually, there is this kind of a dance goes on between corporate world and then the government. And finally, according to me, if I'm an optimist, I would say we will reach a consensus regarding where to draw the line, where to draw the boundaries about research, or what is generally referred to as the responsible AI, where that we can have this guardrails. Okay, so that's about the future of humanity, and that's why we have all this worries. Another book that I would recommend someone again get a summary of it is Hari mentioned about the new epoch. It's a new epoch mainly because, as I said, today we have reached a stage where human beings probably are not going to be in control of where the machines will be or what they will be doing. So that is why from that stage to new epoch we have reached. As I mentioned earlier, AI is the talking point now, but it has been there since 1940s and the 50s. This is just I give you a glimpse of that. I will not go through that because, as I said, giant brains and machines that think. So we've been worried about it. People have been writing books about this for the last 50 years or so. So that is that. Now, giving you a simple evolution of this. So as I said, from 1940s to 50s, we have seen the emergence of this. AI research has been going on since then. So even though today we hear so much about AI, it has taken more than 60 years. That is the usual lifespan of any research. It takes about 50 to 60 years to reach a certain stage of tipping point. Okay. The difference I'm going to focus on here is that early AI research focused more on symbolic reasoning and rule-based systems, whereas current AI systems are more on data-driven. Okay, that's the main difference, and that's where we need to worry in the sense because we are generating the whole society individually and collectively. We are generating humongous amount of data every now and then. All the sensors around us. Okay, everywhere we are generating humongous amount of data. Whenever you do a search, whenever you do any simple act, like, for example, when you send a message, whatever you are doing, when you take a picture, I'm sure most of you have experienced this AI capability of Google Photos, right? It just needs a few photographs and then it recognizes who that, and it creates every day, it sends you one message. We have created some unique this thing of somebody that is in your photograph collection. Every day it sends me one thing. One, it's a nice thing to have that, memory of 4 years back, 2 years back, and also how it can accurately detect. Imagine a newborn baby, my granddaughter's, her first day photograph to till day, it can actually recognize it is the same person. So that is the ability of AI, okay? It doesn't need, because it has so much. Of course, we have also taken so many photographs, so it has the data set. The point I'm trying to say is it can recognize mainly because we have given, or the society we have in a stage where so much data is generated. Now, coming to the AI evolution, the today's evolution we are in is in the what is known as the big data phase. Okay, because of the data, we are able to now reach this level of AI. Okay. Now, before I go to the ChatGPT, I would also like to give a little bit of where we are when it comes to AI. Usually, AI is categorized into these three groups: weak, and then strong, and super intelligence. Okay, and according to most people, either we are still in the weak stage, or if it is in even the strong or what is known as the general intelligence stage, we are in a general intelligence stage of AI with reference to only a specific task. That is what the general consensus is. Well, let me give you a disclaimer. I am not an expert in AI. Okay. I am only working with AI. I am listening and talking to people. Okay. And also worked in different aspects of computing, but not in AI per se. Okay. To some extent, we have worked in the areas of, natural language processing, or something similar to that. But then the thing here is about understanding where we are when it comes to these three categories of AI. Weak, okay, weak AI is where it can do what you're doing. And according to generally what is known as strong AI is where it's also called as AGI, that is, artificial general intelligence is where it can do many things that a human being can do, but it is limited to one narrow area of work. Okay. Super intelligence is where it can do everything that we can do better, or maybe faster. Okay. So I mean, I will skip these things. The reason I mention again one other person is he has been actually writing about this issues of super intelligence, that is AI super intelligence, for since about more than I would say more than a decade. Okay, and he has also written a book. He's a philosopher, and of course, as I mean, we talk about collaboration here. What I have observed, one difference that we find between Indian scholarship, generally, I'm saying, don't think that I'm making a generalization about like ChatGPT. I'm not making a generalization about Indian academic scene or scholarship, but Western one is, because I have seen it myself. Whereas here, if you want to even hire, let us say, a computer science person, professor, to library information science person, you have all these questions. You have to be a professor or a PhD in that subject, this subject, etc. Whereas there, everyone who is working in that area becomes, that is, he has worked in the area of computing, etc. But he's a professor of philosophy, because everyone naturally has to be involved in this. So whether they are social scientists, whether they are historians, they all have basically, been trained in computing or using softwares for their own work. So he talks about super intelligence in this book. So again, my recommendation as usual is to get a summary of this book. You can ask ChatGPT to give only 5 key takeaways from this book and see whether it gives. I have not tried that, but see whether it gives that 5 key takeaways from Nick Bostrom's book on this. Now, coming now to the topic of today's talk. The premise is what is known as generative AI, that is, ChatGPT belongs to that group called generative AI, is a vital tool that professionals within all fields should learn how to use. That is the premise. I think all of us are here to talk about how we can use it, whether we should be using that. Okay. Everyone has talked about it. I don't want to talk too much about how ChatGPT and academia are related, are actually, to some extent, you can even say at loggerheads. Why? Because academia's holy grail is teaching. Academia's holy grail is writing, right? That's our main business. That's our bread and butter. We talk, we write, and that's how we survive and get our bread and butter. But if AI can do it, or generative AI can do it, such as ChatGPT, then where do we stand, right? How do we manage? If students can, one of the standard way we evaluate a student is giving assignments, right? Now, when you give an assignment, what the student has to do today is probably just ask ChatGPT. So for all these reasons, in fact, academia has been one of the professional groups that have been up against ChatGPT, at the same time actually doing a lot of research on how it works or how it doesn't work. Many of the articles that talk about the limitations of ChatGPT are also by academics, researchers naturally, who have tested giving assignments, giving this, etc. You might have heard newspaper headlines talking about how ChatGPT could beat or could actually pass this entrance test, that test, etc. Harvard entrance test or Harvard admission test and all of that. But most people have found, I wanted to mention this towards the end, but anyway, at this point only let me mention many studies that have been done so far on ChatGPT for its writing and, various academic work says that the capability of ChatGPT is, I use quote one paper, middling undergraduate student. What does that mean? Well, it has capabilities, but just like an undergrad, not even a top level undergrad too. It can do certain things getting it right, and it can also go horribly wrong. That is the judgment as of now. Okay. Why I'm saying mentioning this at the very beginning is that we need to have this frame to know that it as of now, I keep saying that as of now, because in the computing world, we know that as of now could change the very next minute. Because by then somebody would have done so much research that it could change. ChatGPT 4 could become 5, right? So that's why we have to be careful about this word as of now. So that's what I'm saying, that it is basically the point here is about what are the things that AI can do, or generative AI can do. Okay. In several ways. Let us get this right. Okay. It can do, I suppose all of you have used. Let me take a poll here. How many of you used ChatGPT for assignments? I see half the audience, right? Other half is hesitant to raise, I guess. No, you will not be caught copying, right? Copying, don't worry about it. So everyone has used, correct? For a variety of these things. So I don't need to talk anymore. Am I right? Then you ask me questions or share your experiences with ChatGPT. Okay. How many of you have used for a variety of these things other than just getting it to write something, such as analyzing data? Have you given your research data? Is because you want to retain your job? Yeah, many of our experience also so far again has been not so useful or not. So it's useful. I'm not saying that it is not useful. It is useful up to a point. But if I were to give an analogy, because as I said, it can do all of this, right? In generating ideas, I will give you some example. I think I have in the next slide. Okay. One thing is help with the title of your paper or assignment. Okay. I did this yesterday or something. I'm going to give a talk on this. Can you help me? I think all of you can read that, right? Can you help me improve the title of my talk? What does it give? Yes, it gives me a different title. Mastering the written word, enhancing academic writing with ChatGPT. So you can see that how it can help me. So if you ask my opinion, well, it has given me some more options, which normally I would have, scratched my head and said, why not I change this title to this, that, etc. Like as I said, I had given the title turbocharging. Well, then I said decoding. So I asked, how about the title decoding, which I had chosen, right? Decode. Then it changed it a little bit, right? Decoding ChatGPT, turbocharging your academic writing. Then I asked, can you give me a title that has more punch? Then it gave me unleashing the power of ChatGPT. Okay. So this is an elevate your academic writing. So this is a live example of how you can use ChatGPT for your academic writing, starting with the title, because it begins with the title. Like we have some idea and then we want to have a nice jazzy title. But my own experience, if you ask me, because I can't ask each and every one of you, what's your feeling about this or your choice about this title, I would say it gives me options, which I would have taken some more minutes, etc. Morning, I would have thought this, and by evening, I would have changed the title as we do with our papers. No, we start with one title. By the time we end the paper, we would have changed the title a couple of times. But is it super intelligence? I wouldn't think so, right? It gives me some more options. I would use ChatGPT. I have been using ChatGPT as my virtual assistant. So only research assistants or doctoral students have to worry, because usually, PhD students used to help their supervisor with this. So we don't need them anymore. So this is one example of what ChatGPT can do. Now I have given some more. Can you give some real world examples of successful deployment of ChatGPT in academic writing? Okay. So it has given idea generation and brainstorming, all of language enhancement and proofreading. Okay, this is the actual answer by ChatGPT. I don't know whether it was yesterday or day before yesterday when I did this. Okay, about some examples of, I asked for, remember here, I'm asking for real world examples. What has it given? Has it given real world examples? Do you think that it has given real world examples? No. Again, a generic template. What you would have got with a Wikipedia article or something, right? If I had asked something like this for a Wikipedia article, what are on any article on ChatGPT for academic writing, it would give me these answers. Instead of an article here, you have this answer by ChatGPT. So it's giving all this list, some 12 or I think all of these are. So these are the things that you can use it for, use ChatGPT for in your academic writing, remember. Preparing presentation slides, generating practice questions, etc. All of these it can be used for, okay? Now, I'll just take one. I'm not going to do all of them, okay? I thought, let me try and see whether it can help me generate ideas for my research, okay? So I asked, well, I'm doing some work on prosopography. I said, I want to do some more work on this area. Can you give, I think the question is missing there. Anyway, ask, can you give me some ideas about the kind of research that I could do in the field of prosopography? So you can see here, it gives me some ideas, right? Is it great? I don't think so. It's good. It's nice. It's something nice to have. But again, I would say any article or at least couple of articles if I had read about, use of prosopography, I would have got this. Only thing is now here I have got with ChatGPT in one place all of these things. What does that mean? Has it lessened my work? What do you think? In my view, at least the way I am, it has increased my work because I need to check each and every one. The other problem with ChatGPT as of now is the important problem or the serious problem which everyone talks about is that it is a black box. When I read a paper on, let us say, use of prosopography, I would know who has written that paper. I would know what citations or references that person has used, etc., which gives me a little bit more context and also helps me in deciding how accurate or not so accurate, whether it's authentic or not, etc. Right? Here, it gives me, yes, that is true. But then it's a black box. It's not transparent. So that means I need to double check if at all, and the other one is, I always say whether it is Google or ChatGPT, what it does is, it actually, Hari has been saying, curious minds. It only actually makes smart people smarter. ChatGPT can make you smarter, right? Because it gives me so many things. Maybe I would have done only 4 or 5 I would have thought about, or some article would have given me 5 or 6. Why it has made me smarter is, I'll come to that later, because it gives me, and then it makes more work for me because I need to do all of this again, check it out. What I'm doing in the sense, at least examine and check it out. So that is my take on what it can help us do with academic writing. That is not only all the things that it said, but in addition, when you look at it from the point of view of idea generation only, I just took only one step that it said, that idea generation. I mean, of course, I gave a query because I needed it. I have done some work in prosopography. I wanted to do what else I can do in this. So it gave me this, right? All of this. So these are, this is another, example of what ChatGPT can do. Okay. So these are all the facilities. It can do all of this in prosopography. Okay. But it also, of course, adds a caveat. Remember here. The caveat is, remember that your choice of research topic should align with your interest and all of that generic thing. So that is also important for you. It is its disclaimer, right? It is giving a disclaimer that this is important. that each of these ideas can be adapted and refined to suit. So that means it is asking you, that's what I mean by saying it is asking you to do a little more work. So that's how it makes smart people smarter. But if you are thinking of it as replacing you or your work, in my view, no, it doesn't do that. Okay. So let us now touch a little bit on the technologies behind ChatGPT, because I know that all of you are probably not interested in the technologies. But as I always said, and I believe, before I started learning to drive, my husband and my father, they both told me that you have to understand how. I mean, of course, I'm a student of physics, so I knew how a engine works, etc. I said, first you understand how the car works before you actually start. You don't have to be a automobile engineer, but at least you have to have a sense of how it works. So I always believe that whatever work you are doing, you might be just deploying, right? Even if we are using the mic, we need to have some idea of what is the technology behind that, how it is amplifying, how it is taking it, what it is doing, etc. So I believe whether you are a student of English or computer science people, I expect that they would be knowing all of this better than me. But if you are not even a computer science student, understand that it is always good to know how it works a little bit at least. So everybody is using all this artificial intelligence. I have also used these words, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. So I have taken it from some website because it gives that idea better, I thought. So this is the sort of a relationship between all these three terms that you actually are being bandied with: AI, machine learning, and deep learning. Okay, that's the connection. AI is the larger field, and then deep learning is one of the subfields within the or subset of the machine learning area. Okay. Now, ChatGPT. I mean, one thing that I learned in my own training as a library information science person to index things is to always remember the term, because I have been passionate about classification as a field of library information science. So one thing that important thing to you to write, classifying things from words, what group it belongs to, which, because we try to understand the relationship between different words and terms, etc. So I think it's important for us to know that ChatGPT is a chatbot, right? And who has developed it? OpenAI. So that also gives you the connection between AI and why it is called OpenAI. Well, that is the name that they have used, and also up to a point it is open. I use the word up to a point. As I said, it is a black box, okay, and launched in, which I have already mentioned. The other thing, the important thing is it belongs to the category called as large language based chart. That is, there is something called LLM, that is large language model. Okay, that enables users to refine and steer a conversation. Remember, it's a conversation. I'm going to come back to that. I use the word, it makes you, a smart person as smarter. The reason being how you steer that conversation. It's a conversation with, for example, ChatGPT. You will be smarter, and the ChatGPT's answers will be better depending on how you actually steer the conversation. It can also conversation, desired length, format, style. It's all of these are important. Okay. So with the help of successive prompts and replies known as prompt engineering, I will also briefly touch upon what is prompt engineering. Prompts are considered at each stage of the conversation as a context. Why it is important is that, as I said, it will give you smart answers or relevant answers, appropriate answers, or probably more accurate answers, depending on the prompt that you give. That's why prompt engineering, as it is known as, is there is a deep engineering side to it, which the prompt engineers, employed by, whether they are by OpenAI or Microsoft or Google, etc., they will be training the ChatGPT using the prompt engineering. But as users, we also have to have some sense of what this prompt engineering is in order to be able to get good results out of ChatGPT. Okay, so that is the important. Now, I already mentioned that it is generative AI, right? Why it is called generative AI is that it generates or outputs text images and sound, right? So this uses, as I already mentioned, deep learning. Why we need to understand is how this has become such a big, you can say, milestone today in AI technology is primarily because of the deep learning, the developments that have taken place in the last 1 decade in deep learning, which has actually been responsible for this generative adversarial networks, or GANs as they are called as. Okay. So I'll come to this little bit. There are two neural networks, one generator that creates new data and a discriminator that evaluates the data. So inbuilt within ChatGPT is these two things, these two levels, you can call them as, or, each competing. That is the generator and then the discriminator, and that is its power. It continuously can do this. Okay. So the generator improves its outputs based on the feedback from the discriminator until it generates content that is indistinguishable from real data. There is the power, and that is also the danger. It's not distinguishable from real data. So it reaches a point where you don't know whether it is real data or artificial data, in the sense data that is generated by the generative AI. So that is the power. Power as in, because, you give billions of data, then it can do trillions easily, right? Because it can keep generating and then it uses the same. So that is its power. But at the same time, that is where the danger lies. It's like, one other concern these days about generative AI or ChatGPT is the fact, one of the concerns that all of us have is about fake news and disinformation, right? Disinformation is one of my, again, area of study. Disinformation and misinformation. The more you have, then it keeps generating the same. Then after 5 years or 10 years, you will have more artificially generated disinformation, which creates more and more. Like, it becomes that kind of a problem. So that is why this technology, why I'm stressing a little bit on this technology part is we have to understand where the power lies and where the dangers lurk also. So that is what ChatGPT is. So without going into the details of machine learning and deep learning, that's one major jump that happened is machine learning needed human intervention for feature extraction and labeling, etc. Whereas deep learning, actually, to a large extent, it is self-learning. That is, it doesn't need human intervention. And that's why it's much faster. Machine learning we have been having for decades. But deep learning has been primarily, I would say, a decade old. So thereby, because of the fact that it doesn't demand or doesn't require human intervention, it can do feature extraction by itself. It is much more powerful, at the same time problematic. Okay? So just to give a sense of that's what I said. Feature extraction is done by human beings in machine learning, whereas feature extraction is done by the machine through its own data and various others. I will not get into the details of this. So that is what deep learning is. It's layered and deep. Why it is called deep is, and it can be as deep as you want. As more and more layers are added, it gets deeper, more powerful, and more powerful to generate good output as well as bad output. Okay, that's the danger. How it works, right? It works, as I said earlier also, huge data set is fed into it, some training set is there, and then feature extraction. We have a professor of pattern recognition here, Dr. Nagin Swami. I don't have to speak about it. It recognizes the pattern and then does that job. Okay. So humongous, what has changed or what has been a game changer is the humongous data availability and stupendous computing power. That is what has turned deep learning into a very usable technology. So, there are many types. Essentially, we say there are two types. One is the CNN and the other one is the RNN. Primarily, RNN is used for text, used in NLP, etc. CNN is used in image. Okay. So these are the other, those who are interested, you can look at this as, various types of neural networks. Okay. I'll just quickly. What is important here is, as I mentioned earlier, automatic feature engineering. Okay. So this, they keep actually getting this deeper and deeper, the hidden layer, as I said, and that is where it is a black box. The hidden layer is a black box because many a times, even the persons behind the development of that, they wouldn't know. Okay. Sometimes you get an output, it goes on, right? You wouldn't know what is going on or how you got that particular model. Now, coming to the specific ChatGPT per se, well, as I mentioned earlier, it's primarily a generative AI which can generate images, text, as well as audio or music, right? Now, this is another ChatGPT's, which of course is not available open, in the sense you have to be a, ChatGPT now uses what is known as a freemium model. I suppose some of you may be familiar with what is a freemium model. Freemium model means that up to a certain level, it is free. More advanced ones are premium. That is, you have to pay for it. Okay. It is I think now it is about $20 or $25 per month in order to get to the premium version, which is not a small amount. So anyway, so this is available. DAL-E is available for creating images from text. Okay. So this introduced, this is just the history of it. Their newest system. So you can see the reason why I put this between 21 and 22. It has released many different ones. Okay. Create original, realistic images and art from a text description. Remember, you just give a text description. It can combine concepts, attributes, and styles also. Okay. So this is a statement by OpenAI. I've just given that DAL-E 2 will empower people to express themselves creatively, right? So if you want to, that's why I said, you can do painting, but even that painting, it is taking the joy out of it if it gets to this stage. Okay. See, I suppose all of you can recognize this famous picture or actually sculpture, right? David of Michelangelo. This is the original as in the sculpture. And somebody said David of as a DJ. Sorry, this is close here. DJ. Some young man wanted to look at David as a DJ, and DAL-E has created this as a DJ. That is the power of ChatGPT now. You can give a prompt, text prompt. You are not you don't have to draw anything, right? You just say, the prompt that was given was David of Michelangelo as DJ, and you got this, okay? So similarly, an abstract painting of artificial intelligence. So we have been using, for presentation, etc., we actually take images, right? So you ask an abstract painting of artificial intelligence, which is a nice one, right? You agree that it's a nice one. An abstract painting of a river. This is produced by ChatGPT. All of you are familiar with this artist, I suppose, right? I don't have to mention. A Van Gogh style painting of an American football player. That is the prompt that was given. The style is mentioned. Van Gogh has never painted an American football player, right? So it says the prompt is a Van Gogh style painting of an American football player. And for that, it has generated this image, which you can kind of convince yourself that it could have been. If Van Gogh were to be alive today, probably he could have done this image painting too. So you can ask, like, you can tell me, I have given another ChatGPT and text responses, which I have already shown you. These are some examples of how it can help you with text responses, right? So these are the examples of it can, as more specific, I'm asking now. Drug discovery. So these are the responses, text responses that I have got from ChatGPT. Now, since we have journalism students, I thought I would mention also about this particular one example as in collaboration between OpenAI and journalism. There is a well-known project called American Journalism Project, which actually is collaborating with OpenAI to generate, because there are, as I said, there is always this danger of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, etc. So local news, and as you know, publishing industry is facing a crisis because of all this. I mean, not only just the ChatGPT, but because of the IT revolution, internet, and all of that, news has become so easily available. Who will read newspapers, right? So that's why they have come up with this project so that it will help each other. Of course, OpenAI will collaborate. Why? Because it will get more content to train to do it better. Now, Google also has, as you know, has also been doing this generative AI. One of its contributions or one of its product is what is known as Google Music ML. Okay. So the prompt that it gave is slow tempo, bass and drums led reggae song, sustained electric guitar. I suppose this one comes. ಅದು ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ ಪ್ಲೇ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೇನ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಬರ್ತೇನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ that's why I think maybe it's incompatibility between my Mac and this. I don't know. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಇದು ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ it doesn't matter, it's okay. The point here is beautiful music is created by ChatGPT, sorry, not ChatGPT, Google's Music ML. So generative AI, I mean, you give the prompt, what kind of music you want, okay? So all that is possible. This again, another way in which I think, again, there is a problem between my laptop and this. The images are slightly, because it should have come one after the other. I had done it in such a way. Let me see whether why it is showing here also, dance. Anyway, that's okay. So which I mentioned. So the point here is you give as specific a prompt as you want, saying that I want this kind of music, this genre, this, etc., etc., what musical instrument and all of that, it can so far create some of those realistic ones. The one which I mentioned, this is the partnership with American Journalism Project to support the local. So I just thought I would just give you a glimpse of what that project here is. This is another example, since we are talking about education, how Khan Academy, I suppose many of you are familiar with Khan Academy, how it has also partnered with OpenAI because it uses, Khan Academy uses AI, okay, which is using this for, ChatGPT, or collaborated with ChatGPT to help it better. So this large language models, which I already mentioned, deep learning, how much time do I have? Can I? 5 minutes? Okay. So that is the game changer. So understanding ChatGPT, I just gave this. What is the, all of you are familiar with prompt that you give it to Google, right? So the moment I say, who is the options that I get are this, right? So what it has made my life easier. Whatever I want to do, I can say who is the father of this, or who is the president of India, government, who is the government of India, anything that I can do. So that is an early example of generative AI, okay? Or I would say early example of use of large language models. So these are the ones that are actually driving the various technologies, including ChatGPT. So it's not limited to this, it is driving NLP, which is actually driving many things, whether it is machine translation, okay? You don't have to even do any translation or even go to Google Translate. You can see that on your website itself, it shows you want to translate it to anything, okay? These are some of the examples. So one of the reasons for the rapid growth of LLMs is this, okay? This is the way in which it has developed within a matter of few years, as you can see. Within a matter of 5 years, the change has been so, okay, you can see this. From 2018, first version was released. And within 5 years, we see this version. And you also see the parameters, that the number of parameters has been changing, right? Or rather dramatically increasing, I would say. So this is the transformer-based language models, how it has changed over the years between BERT to ChatGPT 4. From billion, it has moved to trillion now. Okay. It's like how people, their money also seems to be increasing. I mean, in the sense, there was a time when you would actually talk about thousands and lakhs. Today, everybody talks about crores, whether it is corruption or income. It is in that range, crores. Nobody talks about even thousands or lakhs. Only poor people like us, we will be still talking about lakhs or thousands, right? So now coming to writing, I'll just delve deeply into it. As I said, we know all of it, but then it demands you are, as of now, again, I say, you are thinking. Remember that all of us are in this field, but we need to use ChatGPT or any other technology, whether it is just because Google came. It doesn't mean that you have to stop searching, right? It actually, according to me, again, it also increased my work because it throws up so many more, right? So that's how it is. So you need to understand that you need to be writing, or even if you don't write, otherwise only, I mean, I wouldn't use the word fake, but artificial content will be produced, which may be far removed from reality as we move forward. Okay. So basically, I've tried to give what is academic writing here, but we have professors and students here. We normally categorized into academic writing as two types. One is the students, and the other one is the experts or professors or researchers, right? Both of us are using the ChatGPT. Okay. Students may be using ChatGPT to write assignments, and professors might be using some ways to see how the plagiarism, I mean, just as we developed plagiarism checkers, right? Software to do that. We now have checkers for whether it is generated by ChatGPT or something else. And same thing works for professors also, right? Or academic experts. You can't just use ChatGPT and write a paper and submit it to some journal. Well, of course, if it is a predatory journal, they will publish it. If it is a real journal, usually the chances of getting it published are very remote, or even if it gets published after a couple of months, it will be retracted because somebody else will say, well, this has been produced by ChatGPT. So remember, we need to be clear about this. So I just thought I would, but even though it is tough, I would say get going, start writing. I have to start writing or making an outline of what I want to talk here, right? So these are important, and also bear in mind that whether it is ChatGPT or human beings, you need to not let go of the standards and processes that are involved in writing. Okay, so remember that this is the process. You have to know the topic. Otherwise, you wouldn't know whether ChatGPT is giving you results properly or not. That's what I meant by it. If you are smart, you will be smarter with the help of ChatGPT, right? So all these are important. You just start, and these are what is known as features of academic writing. Remember that it has to be structured. Don't haphazard. I mean, that is not academic writing. It has to be structured. It has to be evidenced. Well, that is one thing. As of now, at least, ChatGPT doesn't give proper evidence. You can ask it to give you some references, right? I can say, give me some references on this. It will definitely give. I've used it. But again, you need to check the references, because many times it could be not actually correct references. So these are all the instances why I'm using to say to get smarter and then use ChatGPT, not to be smart. You have to be smart, and you can get smarter using ChatGPT, just like any of these technologies, etc., which help us make smarter. Remember, it has to be balanced. Now, talking about balance, one of the major criticisms about ChatGPT or large language models is the problem of bias. The problem of bias in ChatGPT is, or any, AI is evident. Of course, there have been measures taken to try and remove bias. I suppose some of you might have heard about how, in the Western world, for example, I don't remember, was it Google or one of these technology firms were actually erroneously classifying or categorizing African Americans as monkeys. That is the bias that is there in the large language models. Okay. So that bias, and similarly, that could happen to any one of us. Okay. Remember that. So the bias is there in LLMs, that is large language models. The bias is there in ChatGPT. So we have to be a little more careful. I will give you my own personal example of how biased ChatGPT is. For example, as you know, there is this constant competition between OpenAI, which is on OpenAI and Microsoft, and then Google, right? So Google has developed one very good example of actually generative AI model in, I will not go into the details of it, in life sciences, for example. Okay. And then since I had that information and I had interviewed someone who talked about that and I had done research on that, I asked ChatGPT, can you give me some examples of application of this? It did not give Google's example. Why? It's not balanced. It's a competitor's one, right? It gave me all others. I still have it in my, what it gave and what. Then I said, how about Google's this? Then he said, yes, I'm sorry. Of course it does all that. I am sorry. This is also one of the very good examples of the application. So it is not balanced. So anyway, these are some of the features. So I thought since we are, remember facts, reasons, examples, statistics, and citation. These are the essence of actually being evidenced. And this is not entirely available with ChatGPT. That's the point I want. It helps you. You have to go on individually asking, and it is also a lot of work, individually asking and getting the answer. Well, it makes it easier in the sense of, okay, you used to go to Google, you used to go to Wikipedia. I do that even today, both, all of this I do. So anyway, I'll give you an example. Well, I'll quickly, these are the, okay. So I recently got a project, as I'm a member of a project, which is about urban infrastructure's digital twins. That is the project title. Okay. I said, let me see how the two approaches work. My traditional approach or the ChatGPT. Okay. Would have been Google it, right? Now I also ask ChatGPT. So when I Googled it, for example, I Googled it. Urban, you can see urban infrastructure, digital twins. These are the things that I get. Okay, I click on one of them. You can see that smart cities and digital twins. I click, I get some details, right? I get this in a different way. It is not conversational. I get this. Then I actually see here. I went to one of the articles there, which you can see. IEEE article, mobile mapping, machine learning, and digital twins for road infrastructure monitoring. So I get these results. Then what I normally do, right? Then I see the references, which I need for evidences. I go to the references, click on some, click on many, right? Then I also go to which are the papers that cite this paper. This is our standard route to do academic work, right? This is one approach. Now I do that now. Now let us see ChatGPT one. So this, what are urban infrastructure? I give the same thing. I get this answer. Now I leave it to you to decide. Then I said, can you give me some? So it says, I don't have direct access to external sources, and it gives me this. So this is the comparison that happened 2 or 3 days back, which I did, so that I can deal with how it can do, compare the two, my old approach and the new approach. Now what I do, I combine the approach. More work for me, right? So I also asked another one. I am writing a research proposal on this. I asked this to ChatGPT. Help me, because we wrote a research proposal, and as I said, we got the funding for that. Write a research proposal. I thought, let me compare it. It gives me this. What do you see here? It's a generic template. See here? Does it give me actual references? No. Then again, I have to do the search, right? So this is how it works. Expected outcomes. What it gives me is a nice template for writing the research proposal, which most of you do, right? If you want to write a master's thesis or master's dissertation or a doctoral thesis, you take the word someone else's and then say, well, okay, you have to do this. You have to, chapter 1 is this, chapter 2 is this. So same thing, it is also doing you, helping you with this kind of a template for that, right? So as I mentioned about prompt engineering, I said this is very important in order to get the most out of ChatGPT. Okay. Prompt wording, what is important, all of this, right? I'll not go into the details of this basics of prompt engineering. Okay. You need to do this positive and negative prompting, both are there. But generally it is suggested be more positive in the sense, do not say, do not include this. Normally, while giving a Google search also, we'll do that, right? Negative, not like the Boolean logic, right? So here it says, one of the tips that is given is that try to be as precise, as specific, and also always give examples and role play. You say, imagine yourself to be an expert in digital twins and give me this. Imagine yourself to be a student of this and then give me answer. That way, the tonality, the level, etc., will be more relevant. That's why you have to become more and more. I would say learn this trick, or I would say the training in this prompt engineering. It is iterative. That's, remember, you have to keep on asking those questions, and that's how it works, right? So you can even ask ChatGPT for prompts. I'm working on this. Can you suggest some prompts that will help you give me good output? So to that extent, it is there. And self-criticism, which I mentioned, like, if you say that, oh, sorry, it's wrong, etc., it will take it. Okay. So there are myriad ways of using ChatGPT, which I mentioned it. So try and do all of this. As I went on saying, in automated summarization, ask ChatGPT for a summary of something which you don't want to read the entire thing. Of course, you might miss some important things also, right? I will mention one problem and then end with this. It's called the hallucination problem. Hallucination problem of ChatGPT. Okay, that is what is known as, basically it makes things up. Things that don't exist, it makes things up. It is not fake news. Remember, it's different from that. You ask something, let us say, for example, if you ask give some court cases. In fact, some lawyers have used ChatGPT saying, give me some court cases on this. When there are no court cases, it makes up these court cases and then gives, and they have to be smart enough to know or make another search to know whether it's really it's like, fake news. If somebody sends you, at least that's what I do. If somebody sends me some information or even cites something on social media, my task is increased because every time I have to check whether it is fake or not, right? Somebody gives a nice quote, memes are created. Somebody said this. Is that quote really existing? No, half the time, at least the WhatsApp University quotes and memes, they don't exist 90% of the time. It's all made up. And ChatGPT is also learning from the WhatsApp University. It is making things. That is what is known as hallucination problem. Okay. So you know that it doesn't, that's why they use the word, nice word, I think, hallucination. Okay. It hallucinates. It's confabulation of just plain making things up. That is a major problem with ChatGPT, which they have not been able to. So as I said, this is another interview I did. I think that is surf is missing, F is missing. Well, windsurf, I suppose everyone knows, or at least computer science people know. Windsurf, who is considered as the father of the internet. I had, again, the privilege of interviewing him just 3 months back. And then I asked him this question. Just as you asked ChatGPT, I asked these people also what is their view about ChatGPT. It's not because he is now working for Google, but he gave me specific examples. What I liked about is the analogy that he gave. He said they are like salad shooters. That's what it does, confabulates. It chops it up, mix up in different ways, and then shoots it. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't get it right. Okay. Even if you train facts, it may produce non-facts and misinformation. That is what the problem is. Then another major issue with which probably will shape things in the future is the copyright problems. That's also another thing that everybody is now actually trying to sue, because where does this deep learning happening or deep knowledge coming from? The data. The data is from books. I'm reminded of the Google's book digitization project about 15 or 20 years back, I think 2003. Everyone thought that you don't need any more books, but we know what happened to the Google's. I mean, it's still useful. I still use it many a times. Google book, but still we need the books themselves. So same thing is probably going to happen with ChatGPT. So that's where I end. Thank you so much.
If the audience has any questions to ask, you can go ahead.
It was an excellent talk by you. I will hear very lot of thoughts. You compare. Yes. You compare Google with ChatGPT. Once I asked one of my students about the same question. Can you what's the difference between Google and ChatGPT? He gave a funny answer, but it was I think it was quite interesting also. He said the Google is like Hanuman. So Hanuman, you ask something, it brings the mountain. But ChatGPT is a smart Hanuman. You ask something, it narrows down to that particular drug and gives. So there's the answer, there's the perception the students have. So how do you want to react to this?
So see, I think the analogy is a right one. And I would also say the advantages and disadvantages. Again, it depends on what kind of a person you are, and person in the sense, the style. Now, some people believe in principle of least effort. Well, I get something and I'm happy. It serves the purpose. Okay, I'm okay. But if you are a person who wants to know whether what you have served me is the right one, I want to go back and check, etc. In a way, it's not the mountain also, as you know, Google is not just a mountain, it's a grand place. And behind it, there's a great technology, great companies, right? There is some, I mean, the same technology as which is the most popular, and also, and remember, just like in a, I mean, similar but not exactly the same way. Just as ChatGPT is improving its algorithm by the questions and the answers that conversationally, in Google also, or any information retrieval, as a student information retrieval, feedback mechanism has always been the sort of the behind how you can improve our information retrieval system. Right? So the moment you click one among the, let's say the first page, you click 3 out of the 10 or whatever number it is given, it is like Google is taking the feedback that this is relevant to your query, it customizes it and all. So behind that also, I mean, two things I want to emphasize. A, depending on what kind of a person, it's always good to have the options like a menu, right? You have all of them and then you choose. And then by choosing, you according to your context, your style, etc., you choose something, and Google is improving its feedback mechanism. So that is what good. What I mean, I agree that you are a student who wants just one answer. Maybe it is a quick fix. But if you are a serious student, want to learn, want to know, not just write it. If your purpose of education or being a student is to know, understand, expand your horizon, I would still say use both. Either you start with this or go with that. As I told you in my some examples, I can give you. So I would use, like, why do you limit yourself to this? You start there and then go back, right? Or you start there and come back here and not. So my answer would be that he or she is not wrong, but then it serves a very limited purpose for only, I would say, that moment you have to, better manage. But if you want to learn, if you want to know, no. ChatGPT. Again, you have to keep asking Chat. Of course, you can expand it by asking more. Thank you. Yes.
The background and context of the question is related to. Now, the background and the context of the question is related to plagiarism being critical component of academic rating. So when it comes to some specific figures and facts that researchers want, they can still go to scholarly databases like Google, where you have references and you explicitly cite. But when it comes to ChatGPT, it was evident in your presentation also, but power is in terms of probably some sort of creative idea, titles and methodologies. And with the black box approach that you said, it will not really tell you what is the source. So this is the background. So because you are an editor of prominent international journal also, from the editor's perspective, you think currently there are processes which are actually trying to check if some of these approaches are coming from ChatGPT, because plagiarism tools, even OpenAI have announced it, and the established one, Turnitin also have said there is plagiarism detection. But with my limited experiments, I could see that they're not fully detecting it as of now, but they may do it in the future. So what is the process? And as a researcher, what way should we go about actually citing those or using those materials?
Yeah, good question. And again, as I said earlier, the thing is, editorial processes and have been being refined in view of ChatGPT. Right? One thing that they do is also check. The other important thing, without going to how you can do that is, say, remember when you send it to a referee, it's normally expected that referees are experts in that field. Right? They are experts. They are not somebody. So they know who is working and what is the current state of the art in that own area. So they can easily make out that it is a paper which is worthy of publication or not, which is plagiarized. And one could probably plagiarize something like an introduction and things like that rather than doing their own thing. But the actual work, the data, the inferences, etc. As of now, again, I will use that word, it cannot be done. And remember, even in any of the software we have seen, many times you are also my student, I have contributed to that, we can use Excel or any of those things, but we have to have our own eye. Otherwise, it will throw something. Even though it might have changed, the Vivo concept of 1960s, garbage in, garbage out, to a certain extent, even today. So if you just give it without actually cleaning it up and all of that, right, then it throws some garbage. So my answer to your specific question is yes, editorial process, they're also trying it. But still it is that not just the software which helps detect it. We are seeing with Turnitin or anything, sometimes it takes your own references, your own article or plagiarism from that, right? But then people know, people who are referees of your journals, etc., they know what is happening. See, all said and done, in any research field, it is still a small network of experts. They know, number one. Number two, in a way, identity detection, etc., is much more easier than actual substantive detection of it. They know whether you are doing work on it. You can't just create something today and publish a paper if you have not done any work in that space in the last 5 years. So that is what I call as the native human intelligence that is there with the human referees who can easily, as I said, some sort of plagiarism in terms of text, introduction, and such things can are even, for example, the template, right? But any work, academic worthy of writing papers, they know that even if they have taken something, they will add something, they will change something. Even the wordings, etc., they will do that rather than it only acts as a trigger to do better. I go back to my saying that if you are smarter, you will do it better. If I show you something sick, you will see whether it is the same. So my answer to that is changing. Things will change naturally because these softwares are available, but even easily even before the Turnitin came, you would Google it and find out if someone has already begun similar thing. Same thing.
So in the present context, in case we have got some very excellent insights about the methodology, is an output of ChatGPT. Will it be a good idea in some way in trying to acknowledge ChatGPT?
You mean citing ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah, that may also come. Yeah, that's already some efforts are there towards that. That just as you know, remember 25 years back, people said, "Oh, Wikipedia, nobody would take it seriously and nobody would cite." But today, everybody cites Wikipedia also. Right? I mean, I'm taking this example because we have seen that what happened with it. So people would say, "Oh, Wikipedia." I mean, teachers would tell the students, "Don't cite Wikipedia because your paper or assignment would be actually downgraded." But today, Wikipedia is cited by everybody because it has also improved it. And we know that, Wikipedia gives you good content, correct? So same way, ChatGPT could also be. I think I have sort of reference in my saying in my own paper saying that according to ChatGPT, this is what it defines that. And in this, I've forgotten maybe 3 months back or something, I have used that. ChatGPT says this. According to Wikipedia, this is. So it's not exactly a referencing style might not have been there. We could, people would do that as a practice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, ChatGPT is not, I don't know how it's referenced, but Google, I'm sorry, Nature has published a paper, ChatGPT as an author already, several months back. I got a question. Question is challenge how the academics, the professors who are evaluating the students, how would actually the challenge that is there for them in terms of how is it addressed really? How it is to be addressed? Because well, so long we have taken Bloom's taxonomy as the yardsticks. Now that ChatGPT and even internet, it's addressing the level 1, level 2 recall and things like that. So, with ChatGPT coming, it's going to be there, open for students to use, as good as professors to use and things like that. So, how it should really affect the learning itself in the days to come. And that's the kind of problem that I would address because it's going to be there, it's going to be better in the days to come, and how learning process need to address that in the days to come.
See, learning essentially hasn't changed, right? The sources and the strategies might have changed, right? I mean, whether it is hundreds or even thousands of years back, how would anybody learn? Either through, for example, like teachers or professors, or through books, right? These are the general that is acquisition of knowledge. Is to do research also, acquisition of knowledge is normally through your education and then through others' learning, etc. So it still remains the same. ChatGPT has become another resource, according to me. It's another resource which, instead of you doing the search, etc., it will do that search, brings it to you in a summarized, structured manner, makes your work easy, more convenient, and still you have to learn. But in order to, if you want to learn, right? You have to learn, you have to read that, you have to learn it. It might give you in a succinct manner. As I said again, why I go back to the Wikipedia example is before Wikipedia came, encyclopedia as well as Wikipedia, because of its up-to-dateness, etc., you would always go to the Wikipedia thing. At least I would, even today I go. Primarily because I start my research or reading, etc., with that, I go to its references, then go all that back and forth with it. Same thing with ChatGPT, according to me, a student also. An answer it will give, so that you don't have to actually write the answer. But as you know, again, if you are writing the same answer, either it quotes according to ChatGPT, and then remember you also give your interpretation of it, say that it says this, but however I would do that, etc. So learning, in my view and experience, has become much better. Because remember earlier, why earlier, even our own lifetime, I still remember my master's degree, Sultan said when he was teaching research methodology, he said, keep a dictionary on your table, and I did it religiously. I followed it till my retirement. In fact, I wanted to take see that Oxford English Dictionary, which was from the University Library, which was there on my table for 40 plus years. I said, I want to take it up. I said, I meant the reason I'm saying is you would flip. But today, do I need to open a dictionary not to find a meaning? No. It's faster, right? I can easily see that what is the meaning. You click on whichever software you are using, right side, and then you take the meaning, you give the, I mean, those days, remember, Roger, we used to find synonyms, etc. But today, you get it easy. So has it made our work better? I would say better. Again, better depending on if you are smart, if you are learning. Otherwise, you would still, despite words, showing red and green, etc., spelling mistakes are there. Why the students don't even correct that? Word is showing that this is a spelling error. As all the students change the spelling, looking at, they don't get, they're too lazy to even check that. So if you are lazy, if you are not using that prompt, saying that you don't have to actually open, I mean, the way we did it, open the dictionary and go to that word and then look at the meaning, look at the spelling, etc. You don't have to do it. So I can produce easily more papers to you than I would do, say, 30 years back. Why? Because I have Google, I have Wikipedia, now I have ChatGPT. So it has made me more productive and better. Better in the sense, some errors, I can quote the latest article today compared to when I did my PhD, right? So it's better today. According to me, if you are interested in learning, if you are interested in improving yourself, these are all the tools.
Should professors today expect more from the students? This is the thing.
Oh, that's your question? I would say yes. I would get so annoyed with the student who doesn't even look at the, I mean, especially when you open that Word document, you will see that red, right? Showing that the student hasn't even taken the trouble to check why that red line is there, right? So I expect better. And I would expect my PhD students to be as up to date in the references as possible by month, not by just years, right? 30 years back, a year would pass. Even then, it was not a excuse. But today, if it is not up to date, if it is 2023 and I am still citing only 2021 or 22, I would say that it is not up to date. I expect more because you have all the tools today. Or even, for example, let's say references, correct? Today, you don't even have to, I mean, those days we had to learn how is it to cite according to Chicago manual, APA and all that. Today, you give that ChatGPT will correct. I mean, correct instance, I give a reference in APA style, it will give and ask for Chicago, it will give me. So I can easily change it. And what's the problem then as a student? And if you ask me, the only regret that I have today is that I am not a student anymore. In the sense, I am not any person studying for my bachelor's or master's because I feel I would have been much smarter if I had all these tools when I was young. That's my regret.
Thank you, ma'am. As the voice of audience, I can say that I've learned a lot today.
But one question is about artificial intelligence. Nowhere in the world, no country has given the what is called the intellectual property right for the products of artificial intelligence as well as products. Many countries in America, they applied for this right on this, but it was not given. But some institute in Africa, they have already given a copyright to the product, whatever we produce by us. This is one technical question. Second question is, when we download the apps on this Play Store or somewhere, what type of this ChatGPT apps that we have to download? Because there is a fear of data security and all those things.
Thank you. Regarding the first question, for any new technology, as you know, laws have to be framed, it takes longer, takes time to frame those laws. It should be as such because you have to see the whole thing. For example, I mean, in addition to copyright, another question comes when it comes to AI and robots, etc. Right? Citizenship. In fact, Saudi Arabia, is, if my memory serves me right about the internet, has already given citizenship to one of its robots, Sana, something is the name, right? But it's only country. But so how do you give? Similarly, I did not go into all those applications of AI, for example, self-driving cars. The technology is there, and then it's been generally proven that it's very as safe as it could be with human. Why it is still not being introduced in a generic base? Because of the loss. Who do you hold responsible? Today you have insurance and etc., which hold the person driving this, and then still the conscious drive, which I did not go into. See, today, I mean, when I say today, it's human beings, we make a quick decision, a trade-off between, whether, so unfortunately, many times in this, whether you have to protect yourself or the child, correct? Your own child or grandchild, we make a quick decision what to do, right? And that conscience is not there for AI robot system. So that's why that's a serious question, debate is going on, who to assign. That's why accountability is an important issue which still has not been solved. And that is why some of these things are not being deployed, or probably may not be deployed. Similarly, in warfare, one of the serious debates that is happening since the last 2-3 years is the ethical issue of whether you deploy autonomous warfare and thereby save human life, because you don't lose soldiers in the war, but at the same time, indiscriminately it will kill the other country. I mean, at least there are some, basics of warfare or even ethics of warfare where it says civilians, children and women should not be killed. Only, other, in the battlefield you have to kill, but that kind of discrimination is not. So that is the main issue about, why, whether it's copyright, etc. Copyright can be given, but then you will have to first fix a responsibility to who. There's copyright when it came to even copyright ownership. Who do you hold responsible? Is the president or the top person or the person? So all of these issues will be resolved. It's not very good. I forgot your second question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for all the questions. I think what I take away from this is how much of reliability and how much I can use it, and accountability is what I would take away from today's topic. I'm sure as a voice of the audience, I can say that we've learned a lot today. Thank you, ma'am. Now we have Professor Musafir Azadi, sir, Department of Studies of Political Science, to give the presidential address.
Good afternoon to everybody. I'm a political science man rather than a science English or the library science or the computer science. That's the reason why my knowledge about the artificial intelligence belongs to the archaic period. So I'm a traditionalist. How this social science would look into this particularly shift that has been taking place? I would say that we can look at the whole issue in terms of the three important parameters, or the three important arguments. Probably it is developing that kind of argument. And one argument is that she used the argument about the salad. Salad is not a simple component. It's you're bringing different discipline into the artificial intelligence. Social science, arts, images, or take the cases, three important components that she showed, literature or anything for that matter. Salad is basically used in the linguistic philosophy also, where knowledge becomes hybrid. It's an hybridity of the knowledge, extracting knowledge from different, points, and try to develop. I try to give that one into a structured one. That can be also called as the McDonaldization of the knowledge. Also, McDonaldization is a structure of knowledge given to us. You go to the market, pay, then you'll get a McDonald in a wrapper and eat in that cafeteria. Similarly, artificial intelligence also create this kind of McDonaldization of the knowledge. That's what I'm trying to see that. And the second important thing visible in this whole narrative is the death of a civilization. Probably you might disagree with this kind of thing. Uh, this is not a new argument. Death of a civilization, death of modernity, death of a particular epoch. What she used the word that we are entering into the new epoch. Actually, this is a death of an epoch also. Death of a civilization. Civilization in terms of the, acquiring the knowledge. So our civilization began with this Gurukula system, right? Then we entered into this university system, like in Indian context, Britishers that introduced this education system wherein everybody is allowed, everybody is made to refer the text or also refer to the archival knowledge or the archival materials to extract the references and other things. Technology brought a complete change. In fact, I would say that 1980s, probably 1990s, I think that 1990s brought a paradigm shift in Indian context as well as a global context. That's why Elon Musk says that the artificial intelligence has brought a tremendous transformation as consequence on the society. One consequence is about the joblessness. Larger number of this artificial intelligence has displaced thousands and thousands of workforce, or it might, there's a fear that it might displace not less than 3 million population from its work as a workforce. This is true in the case of, if you look at the history, post-independence history or post enlightenment history, any transformation at the technological level has its own effect. I'll give a simple example about the in the rural side in 1960. There are a couple of studies that have been made. One study is about the transformation of the cart, the bullock cart. It is replaced by the tire carts. That has literally displaced the traditional workforce in the countryside. So look at the second important argument that came up in 1980s when banks were automated, or when computers were introduced in the banking sector and other sectors. There are hue and cry. There are a large number of debates. People resisted, arguing that this computer would displace the manpower. And that is true also. If you look at the banking sector today, you don't find many people, many workers working there, but very few. But what will happen to the different sectors? Like, for example, tomorrow you have media, the print media or visual media, wherein artificial intelligence work and reads the newspaper or the newsreader. Where will be the newsreader? This is nothing but the disappearance of the newsreaders, disappearance of a particular cultural practices, and a disappearance of reading through the text. You might say that, but Professor Shalini has said that you still continue to read, not from the text, not from the textbook, trying to refer it from the library rather than online. But reading online and reading from the text, from the physical text, is different one. It gives a more pleasure when you hold a book, or for example, when you're reading Harari's book, when his argument, you are trying to critique his argument about the scientific revolution. So probably that is the fourth argument that he makes. But in fact, there is a debate about that. One can bring the debate about the scientific revolution. Are we entering into the post-scientific revolution period? The traditional scientific revolution is over. Now it's a completely new scientific revolution. Everything is done by the artificial intelligence. So probably we are entering into post-scientific revolution period, and that is going to affect our civilization, the mode of living, mode of representation, mode of interaction, mode of engagement, mode of thinking, mode of imagining. Imagine, you are no more what you are. Your identity will be completely erased, or your identity will be completely changed. So there is a possibility that it will completely change our civilization, traditional civilization, or knowledge system and other things. That's the reason why, there are apprehensions saying that the very application of the artificial intelligence in the context of the developing world always remains as a biased one. For example, the whole debate also started in the context of the United States, between I think the Hispanic community, or the black Negroes and the whites. It said that it's more racist. Artificial intelligence is more racist, particularly in favor of the whites rather than the blacks. Even it is also against the Latinos. Or in the same case, in the context of China, there's a kind of argument saying that it is controlling the population. Mind mapping. It's not a physical mapping alone; it's a whole mapping. Face mapping and other things. Ultimately, tries to control. It's not only that, but also the collecting huge amount of data about a particular person. So there's a possibility that the data might be revealed to others, or there is no question of privacy henceforth. That's the reason why this argument was an old one. Probably it came at the time of the globalization also, where the same argument that your privacy will be taken away. That is true. You don't have the privacy. Now there's something called the private has entered into the private, private, or the public has become private now. It has entered into your private domain also. That's the reason why there's a danger. Like the argument is in China is that it might control the ethnic groups. It might control the people who are resisting. So dissenting group might be controlled through the intelligence artificial thing. So that's the reason why we need to be very careful while applying this one. This is the reason why we need to ask a third question. The third question is that, where are we now? Are we in the beginning stage, given the fact that India is emerging as one of the superpowers, expected to be superpower by 2030, but I don't think by 2030 will be the superpowers, but whatever it may be. There's an inherent argument saying that by 2047 we might emerge as superpower, particularly through the information technology and other things. This has been argued by many scholars like Thomas Friedman and others, saying that India's manpower is catering to the needs of intelligence, what's called the information technology, and also we are trying to be competitive with the American world and other things. But are we now, given the fact that this has become a craze, this has become a buzzword? What she said, it's a buzzword actually. It's a buzzword. It's a craze. But at the same time, what she said was, it's a power. In fact, it's a power because that whoever knows the language of ChatGPT, or whoever knows the language of artificial intelligence, they control us. But at the same time, there's a danger. Tomorrow, artificial intelligence, is used at the time of the war. What will happen? Imagine a machine is allowed with the information to attack certain things. It literally will destroy the whole economy, and not the economy, countries. For example, this artificial intelligence is, treated with the information with regard to the nuclear technology. Imagine India and Pakistan. Both are ready for a war. Suppose, artificial intelligence is given one instruction saying that if there is some problem, strike a deal. Strike the other country. Imagine, but what will happen? What will be the consequence? It's the most dangerous thing. Imagine attacking from Pakistan on India, or India on Pakistan, or China on America. What will happen to the globe? I think there is a most dangerous element involved in the artificial intelligence as well. So that's the reason why there's an inherent fear about the global peace also. That's been talked about in the artificial intelligence. But the problem is that in India, are we in the stage of what is called weak stage of artificial intelligence, or super phase of artificial intelligence? I don't think we have entered into the last phase we are in the primary phase as such, because large number of people are still not in the stage of entering into the information technology, or entering into the phase of globalization, entering into the phase wherein they could extract the information from these new technological advancements. That's the reason why two things are simultaneously existing in India. One is the advanced capitalist, or the advanced people who are being grabbing, who are being appropriating the knowledge of new technology. I call them as a globalist, and who are not being able to grab, who are not being able to compete, or who are not being able to enter into the globalization. This is a fact of this artificial intelligence, or the ChatGPT is a part of the package, or a part of the globalization as such. So you have got two kinds of categories, or two ideas of India. One is the advanced India, global India, those who are advanced in the technology, those who are being appropriated, those who are being into this technology, and there are others who are being deprived. And that's the reason why we are in a situation where the weak artificial intelligence still operating is not popular, even though it's catching up in the university system, but not to the elders, or to the not to all the colleges and other things, but it's slowly catching up in India. Some of the states are not able to understand this thing. Like, for example, Bimaru states, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh and other states, they are still not being able to catch up with these ideas. So you have got a few states like the Karnataka, which is considered as a slightly advanced state, which are slowly catching up. Probably we are in a catching up situation more than a week. Taking into cognizance the factors that are linking Indian economy with the global economy, or the transfer of technology to the India and other things. So we are in a catching up situation. But meanwhile, we need to understand its intricacies, its nuances, and its effect on the larger population Indian context. That's the reason why one side we need to protect the civilization, the Indian civilization, which believed in the hard work, which believed in the going back to the text, which believed in the reading culture and other things. But at the same time, we need to negotiate with the new culture that is emerging. So we need to negotiate between these two. Probably between these two, probably we can exist as a human beings. Probably one last argument is that we need to use this artificial intelligence for our peaceful existence more than destruction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have almost come to the end of the program, so I would like to call upon Professor H.S. Nagendra Swamy, Chairman of Department of Studies in Computer Science, to give a vote of thanks.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, dear dignities, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to each one of you and best wishes for the day. Thank you is such a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose vote of thanks on this special occasion. Dear friends, so far we were listening to a very interesting and important lecture on the new technology by an eminent personality, Professor Shalini R.S. It was indeed a need of an hour, as this new technology hits the various sectors all over the globe like a storm. Any technology always comes with both advantages and disadvantages. it is very much essential for us in this information technology era to get updated with the new technology, know its merits and limitations, threats and opportunities, and use the technology in a constructive way for the betterment of our life as well as the society. In this context, the today's special lecture on the topic ChatGPT and academic writing was very meaningful and very useful to the intellectual community like us. It's my pleasure to thank all the people who are responsible and supported directly or indirectly to organize this academic event and make it more useful and successful. At the outset, I would like to express our sincere thanks to Professor Shalini Aras Madam for having accepted our invitation and delivered a special lecture on this new technology. Professor Shalini Aras has excellently presented this new technology, covering its essential features, identifying its merits and limitations, threats and opportunities, and how to make use of this technology in a constructive way. I'm very sure that each one of you have acquired a sufficient knowledge on this new technology through this lecture and can explore further in depth. So, on behalf of the organizing team and each one of you present over here, I wholeheartedly thank Professor Shalini Aras Madam. Now, I request Professor Aruna sir to give a token of respect to Shalini Madam. I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to Professor Muzaffar S. Asadi sir for having presided over this function and delivered a presidential remarks. He is kind enough to extend his support and valuable guidance in all aspects to organize this event and graced us with his kind words today. So on behalf of the organizing team and each one of you present over here, I wholeheartedly thank Professor Muzaffar S. Asadi sir. Thank you, sir. I request Sapna Madam to hand over the bouquet as moment to answer token of respect to Asadi sir. Any event of this kind cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling about weeks ago. Words are not enough to thank the constant guidance by Professor N.S. Arinarayana at all the stages in all aspects to shape this event with the support of very motivated and dedicated students. So on behalf of the organizing team and each one of you present over here, I wholeheartedly thank Professor N.S. Arinarayana sir. Thank you, sir. I, on behalf of the organizing team, convey deep regards and hearty thanks to Professor M.S. Sapna Madam for having extended her support to organize this event with all the guidance, suggestions, and wide publicity. Thank you very much, Madam. On behalf of the organizing team, I express our sincere thanks to the administrative staff of our university for the support in obtaining the necessary administrative approval for organizing the event. I also extend our sincere thanks to the director and staff of Vignan Bhavan for all the support and the facilities provided to effectively conduct this event without any interruption. I acknowledge the support extended by the teaching and non-teaching staff of all the collaborating departments. They supported in all possible manner to organize and make this event more useful and successful. On behalf of the organizing team, I express our sincere thanks to everyone for the involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of the task beyond their comfort zones. The support extended by the media persons to give wide publicity to this event and hence made this event reachable to a wide audience is highly appreciated and acknowledged. On behalf of the organizing team, I express our sincere thanks to everyone. I thank Ms. Purnima Bharadwaj for having rendered a devotional prayer and Ms. Sapna Prakash for having compared the event. Thanks, dear friends. At last but not the least, I thank all the faculty members, the students, research scholars, and invitees for their participation and patience listening throughout the session. Without the presence and interaction, this function would not have been realized and meaningful. It is time, if time is money, then today you have spent millions for us. Thanks to all of you for making this event successful. Take care and have a nice time. Thank you again.